Clinton Jaws, guys. There's a website out there called clintonjaws.com. How you doing today? I had a bunch of subscribers. This is what we're going to talk about today, guys. We're going to talk about racism. We're going to talk about systemic racism. And policing, right? Because police are systemic racists. Oh, I can't believe I'm talking about this again. You know, it's hard to talk about. You know why? Because nobody's listening. I keep on saying the same thing over and over and over. It should be the biggest news in the entire world, what I'm about to say, but nobody will hear it. You see the headline, abolish RCMP, but if you see the headline, ex-cop reacts to, says that there isn't systemic racism in the RCMP or any police force in Canada, if you see that headline, no one's clicking on it. So I'm talking to myself. I had a couple of subscribers send me a couple of articles, and we're going to talk about the articles, okay? One article is called Report Calls for Complete Makeover of Police Culture in BC. Because that's the culture we have to focus on, the police culture, nobody else's culture. And there's another article that says, BC should ditch RCMP and form its own police force, committee says. This is all surrounding systemic racism, basically. A couple years back, remember? They formed this committee to reform the police, to figure out what's wrong with the police, to come up with their logic on why it's wrong. I don't even know why they formed the committee, guys. But these politicians all said there's a problem with policing in Canada, specifically the RCMP. They're racist. Brenda Lucki came out and agreed with it. Yep, systemic racism in there. Doesn't matter that I say that I was a police officer for a lot of years, and I can tell you right now, without a doubt, systemic racism does not exist in the RCMP or any police force in Canada. It just doesn't. Civilian Review Board. I've done videos on this already again. There's no point talking about it again, but I got to talk about it before I get to these articles. I proved by showing you guys a video that systemic racism doesn't exist because they proved that it didn't exist. They actually proved it by accident. And I'm going to show you a little clip. We're going to go through the little clip. And you're going to see the moment where this committee realized, the committee that worked for years on this to reform the police. You're going to see the moment they realize, oh, are you saying that there's not systemic racism? Does this prove? This might prove that there's no systemic racism in the RCMP. Now, you would think when they hear the proof, they might have a discussion about it, right? The discussion is about how you must be wrong with what you're saying. I hope you're not saying that there's no racism in the RCMP. I hope you're not saying that. I hope you're not saying that the RCMP is not systemically racism. You're going to watch it. You're going to see it. Because they can't have that. They've been working for years on this. Let's just watch the clip. I already talked too long. I don't even know if I made any sense. It's just hard to talk about. It's so, I can't believe it. I can't believe that we're talking about it, that we've accepted the fact that police are racist. Systemically. And everybody agrees with it. They've done their studies, right? They've been working on it for years, right? It's got to be true, right? So I wanted to do a video on this, and I thought, where do I go to get the research on it to back my points? Well, turns out I just went to my older video, and I cut a clip from my older video. And let's talk about it again. The video is short, and let's click play. This is the head of the Civilian Review Board, okay? They investigate police. They get complaints from people. They go to the police. They're not satisfied. So then they go to these people and they say, I don't like how I was handled by the police. These people review it. These people. And this is what she says. She starts off by telling everybody, nobody's complaining. What? About systemic racism when they get arrested or when they're dealing with police. Well, they can't believe what they've just heard. Listen.
We do not get complaints of systemic racism as a rule. So,
what? What are you talking about? What? You don't even get complaints of it? Nobody's complaining about systemic racism? Nobody's complaining about racism when they're dealing with police? This is the bigwig, guys. She's the investigator. Their committee aren't even getting complaints about racism when they're dealing with police. And to be honest with you, when I was a cop for a lot of years, nobody came up to me and said, I didn't like how that cop handled me. I was a boss. He did it because of the color of my skin. Nobody ever said that to me. And I've never met one racist cop in my entire career. And she just told the committee that we don't even get people complaining about racism with respect to police and how they handled them. Now, why isn't that the biggest deal in Canada? Why isn't that the biggest deal? I'll tell you why. They made sure that it wasn't going to become a big deal. They hear the proof, they hear the evidence, and they ignore it. They've been working on this for years. They have to ignore it, of course, right? They would be out of a job if they agreed with her, if they listened to her. You got to see the reaction.
On average, we receive 3,000 to 3,500 complaints per year, and we tend to send about 2,800 of those complaints over to the RCMP. Over the course of the past 5 years, we've received 76 complaints that deal with bias, racism, or discrimination.
76 complaints over 5 years, bias, discrimination, and racism. On purpose. She doesn't tell you how many of them were racism. I reviewed the 2020, all the investigations of 2020 from this civilian review board. There was only one complaint that I read, that somebody was complaining about racism, that somebody was complaining that the police did this to them because of the color of the skin. One person complaining. And we have a problem about systemic racism. They can't believe what they just heard. Watch the reaction to this.
You're just asked by one of the members to repeat that last statistic.
Over the course of the last 5 years, we have received 76 complaints that deal with racism, discrimination, or bias.
Start off with Ms. Lahai. Ms. Lahai, can you please clarify for me again the number of complaints that you get and how many you get based on race and discrimination?
So she clarifies it, okay? We'll skip.
I mean, that number is quite low.
That number is quite low. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah, it is. Maybe you should have a conversation about the number being quite low. That's your proof. That's your evidence. Nah. Let's just keep on talking about it, right? How they must be wrong.
Can you just clarify?
She wants more clarification. Now, this guy comes on. He wants to talk about it more. He wants to give reason why people aren't complaining about it.
Would happen if someone made a complaint of excessive use of force. There was an Indigenous person, but didn't mention or complain that it was because I was Indigenous. Would that be treated as a racially based complaint or no?
Of course not.
I'm trying to understand the statistics.
He's trying to understand the statistics, guys. You believe this? They can't believe it. She proved it doesn't exist. Now back to her.
How are you tracking that they're based on racism or discrimination?
We're tracking it because the individuals actually indicate that they believe that they've been discriminated against based upon race or culture or religion.
Given that there's a clear
they track it by the complaints that they get, which is zero. They're getting zero complaints about it. The only people complaining are the politicians who have made up this fairy tale.
Given that there's a clear differential of results of racialized people, I hope you're not concluding that since there's low number of complaints based on racism, that there is little or no systemic racism within the RCMP.
Why would... Of course, why would she conclude that? Nobody's complaining about racism. Of course I wouldn't conclude that there's no racism or little racism. No, that would make too much sense in my stupid mind. I just can't believe her comment there.
number of complaints based on racism that there is little or no systemic racism within the RCMP. Given that there's a clear differential of results of racialized people, I hope you're not concluding that since there's low number of complaints based on.
I hope you're not concluding that you have proof that nobody's complaining about systemic racism, that now makes you think that there might not be any, that might make you think that there's not an issue in the RCMP. Guys, the only people complaining about systemic racism is the liberal left. The Democrats are insane. They're out of their mind. They've been working on this for years. Trudeau came out and said there's systemic racism in policing, in the RCMP. All these people belonging to the committee, they didn't even have a conversation. Before they started their committee, you would think the conversation would be, okay, we hear that there's systemic racism. How about we start here, guys? Let's start here. Let's prove that there's systemic racism in the RCMP first before we try to fix it. Because we don't want to fix something when there's no problem, when it doesn't exist. How do you fix something that doesn't exist? Where's that board? Where's that committee? No, we just have to assume it exists. And if you don't assume it doesn't exist, then you're racist. Okay, I'll calm down. But it's a big deal to me because that's a blockbuster that'll never be heard. The committee proved there's not an issue going on. I just showed it to you. It falls on deaf ears, though. 2025 can't come soon enough. They're the complainers that are messing up your mind at home. You sitting at home thinking that there's an issue, there's a problem, when there isn't a problem. There's no issue. But they don't want you to believe that. That's how they hold on to their positions. Some of them actually probably think there actually is systemic racism in the RCMP. But not one time have they ever come up with an example. What's an example of it? And I've said this for a couple of years now. Where's your example? Can't come up with an example. These reports, complete garbage. I read them. I can't even understand what I'm reading. There's absolutely no proof in it. Just garbage. And I'm going to go through it quickly. I'm going to summarize it, guys. I'm going to be doing a lot of editing, okay? Why aren't more people talking about this? I don't get it. Are there people in Canada talking about this? I feel like I'm the only one talking about this. Like, why wouldn't somebody want to hear this? Like, I did a video about this. I don't know, 800 views? It's old. This is like back in 2021, guys, basically the other day. Now, you guys know I don't read good, okay? And I'm the kind of guy where I have to read something over 4 or 5 times to understand it. Something wrong with me with that, I'll tell you that. And maybe I'm dumb, but I clearly don't understand this. A committee issued an ambitious call to remake policing in BC Thursday. One of the members thanked the NDP Minister of Public Safety, Mike Farnworth, safety boy, for the broad terms of reference. I want to raise my hands in gratitude, said Green MLA Adam Olson, for following us to do the work and not restricting it, but to say, go in, dig down, find out what needs to be said and say it. What needs to be said? They fixed it, guys. This committee has fixed everything. They've got great ideas. The committee was directed to consider police reform, structure, standards, funding, training, education, plus the scope of systemic racism within police agencies and measures. They don't measure. They don't believe in measurements. And measures necessary to ensure consistency of policing with the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. Whatever that means. The committee came up with 11 recommendations. It would turn policing in BC inside out. Oh, we need that, don't we? Don't we need that? Because the RCMP, and they're no good. They're racist. They're not a good organization. It's part of what Canada's all about. And they want to change it. They want to cost the taxpayer Millions upon millions of dollars. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. Okay, guys, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And you're going to change something that doesn't need to be changed. Do things need to be fixed? Of course they do. We're all running short. Every single police station is running short. The committee recommends that a new provincial police service take over services formerly contracted to the RCMP. How is a new police force going to fix systemic racism? I'm just curious. The Surrey RCMP, they haven't even started yet. But they're already a racist organization, according to the Liberals, right? If you're going to go with their logic, with their thinking, of course. While claiming no disrespect to any individual police officer, the committee nevertheless suggests that policing is currently burdened with a culture of hyper-aggressive masculinity. Because they would know. These dorks. Do you really think these dorks would know? I'm telling you, it's not true. I never once got mad at anybody I was arresting. No matter if they could spit in my face, I'm not going to get mad. And they did. When police are dealing in situations, you can't... They're unbelievable how they handle situations. 9 times out of 10. But they want you to believe, no, there's a problem. It's masculinity. It's hyper-aggressive. Members agreed that shifting police culture will help with recruitment. Yeah, because the police culture is the problem. It's not any other culture, right? The other cultures, they don't have the problems. Shifting police culture will help with recruitment and retention. What are you talking about? How is it going to help with recruitment? I mean, this Olsen guy, this Adam Olsen, is from Victoria. Victoria Police, they're offering you a huge bonus to become a cop down there. There's recruitment issues everywhere. How's that going to fix it? How's it going to help it? By making policing a safe and welcoming place for police officers from all backgrounds, according to the report. Because the RCMP, they just aren't, they aren't safe, guys. They might have a point there, actually. They identified worthy qualities for recruiting officers in the future. Oh, you got this. This group is so intelligent. This is their idea. This is how you get worthy qualities for recruiting officers in the future. Diversity, gender, sexuality, life experience, and education. Really? They came up with that on their own. Life experience and education. I didn't know that was a good quality. Awareness of, humility, honesty, empathy, and sympathy. Isn't that something? They recommended that these qualities also be considered in performance evaluation and assessment, because when I did performance evaluations and assessments for I don't know how many years, I never once talked about honesty or empathy and sympathy. No, I didn't give examples of that for my constables. They just came up with this idea. It's already there, dummy. You idiot. That's how they recruit. Life experience and education, okay? That's how they recruit. Maybe not so much with the education, but life experience. They look for honesty, empathy, sympathy. These guys want you to think that they just hit it out of the park. These guys aren't even cops, guys. They don't have a clue. They don't have a clue. Numerous respondents across all sectors identified interest in defunding or relocating resources from police to other bodies, says the report. Conversely, respondents with experience in policing shared that they are overworked and under-resourced, true, and numerous respondents called for more support and resources for policing. In short, outsiders want to defund the police, while people with actual experience in policing know that this is a non-starter. The only people that want to defund the police are these twats. That's the only people. Nobody with any sense wants to defund the police. No real civilian wants to defund the police. But they want you to think that, there's so many people out there that want to defund the police. It's not true. The committee recommendations, I should say, who's this reporter? He's not bad. The committee recommendations came with a stamp of unanimity, with the 6 new Democrats, 3 BC Liberals, and 1 Green member, all in agreement. Who have never been on a ride-along. You know what I mean? Oh, my God. I'm proud of the resilience of this committee, said BC Liberal MLA Dan Davies, who's the deputy chair. There have been countless challenges and extremely difficult moments, but we had a shared goal in mind. Some recommendations can be immediately actioned and others will take many years. Many, many years. There's so much work to do, guys. This is what... I don't even know what they did. I don't even know what they did, to tell you the truth. This is so dumb. This is what Farnworth, safety boy, says. I applaud the dedication and hard work of all the party's special committee over nearly 2 years that you paid for, he said in a news release. We have already begun reaching out to partners to discuss how we will review the report's recommendations. Now they're going to come up with another committee and review the report. Starting in late summer, we'll be discussing the recommendation with indigenous partners, community advocacy organizations, health and mental health groups, police leadership agencies, police oversight bodies in order to meet the new vision for the Police Act as envisioned by the committee. V. Palmer, postmedia.com. And I actually like the article he wrote. He says some good things in it. BC should ditch RCMP and form its own police force, committee says. As a Canadian, are you just getting tired of this? A committee tasked with reforming policing in BC has recommended province stop using the RCMP and create its own police force. They agreed a provincial police force would create a more consistent standard for police response, training, and oversight across BC because apparently the RCMP police response is not good enough. No example, right? No example. And they always say training, like they know. Like they don't know anything about training. The committee was appointed amid widespread awareness of systemic racism, a demand for more accountability, and questions about responses to mental health and addiction issues. Because the RCMP, they're not responding properly to mental health and addiction issues. Where's your example? I can tell you, there's nobody better when it comes to responding to people that are suffering from mental health. But they don't give you an example of it. Where'd it go wrong? Where'd it go bad? Where's the systemic problem with that? They don't tell you. They know that it's not an issue, that it's not a problem, that they're actually doing a really good job with it. There's a lot of testimony from people saying there was mistrust in how policing currently works in the province. Do you even believe that for a second? A small amount of people obviously complaining about it. They want to do all this over a small amount of people complaining about this. Are you complaining about it, guys? Mistrust? The first recommendation was to bring in a new policing act designed in part by indigenous communities and local governments. This is what a chief says. I believe that the RCMP has failed to effectively carry out their mandate, providing for the safety and well-being of the residents throughout this province, particularly in First Nation communities. Grand Chief Stuart Phillip, president of the Union of BC Indian Chiefs, said in an interview Thursday, a complete crock, Chief Phillip. You're full of it. The only reason you're saying it, because you want to stay a chief. I don't even know how it works. How is a different police force going to provide better safety? How have the RCMP failed to effectively carry out their mandate, providing for safety? He doesn't tell you. There's no example. There's never any examples of this. Having failed that high duty of care, I think it's time that the RC... So we just assume that we have failed that high duty of care? I think it's time that the RCMP went back to Ottawa, blah, blah, blah. We need something that will respect the cultural diversity here in the province. You don't worry about your own culture, dude. Don't you think you got to work on your culture? Wouldn't that be a step? Wouldn't that be a good thing to do, work on your culture? Deputy Chair Dan Davies, BC Liberal MLA for Peace River North, said police are being used as the default first responders to mental health and other complex social issues. Was seen as a major issue. Dan, of course we're first responders to mental health, you dummy. 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning. Crazy man. Wants to kill himself, wants to kill somebody else, has a knife. Who do you think's going to go? Would you not agree that the police should be going to that? Because that's what we do. Every shift, all shift, day and night. Do you not want police to go to something like that? Because the crazies are suffering from mental health and they want to kill people or themselves? Who else are you going to send? You idiot. You can't be that ignorant. How is that a major issue? That's the issue you want it to be. You want us to go to that. Other recommendations address the need for more resources to be given to other services, such as social workers, to tackle such cases. You don't want a social worker going to that, Dan. Okay? Because they will rip off their head and down their throat. I promise you. People are so ignorant and stupid. You don't even understand what police... The majority of my job was dealing with crazies. It feels like it. That's what it was. And there's nothing better than a police officer that goes to that call. That's what you want. But they want to make as though it's an issue. And it's a problem. No matter what you want to change or what you want to do, it will always be this way. We are the ones. The police are the ones that are going to go to these calls every time, all the time, because they're dangerous. Nobody else should be going to them unless they're superheroes or the army. You don't want social workers to tackle such cases, you dumb dick. It's so boring. Listening to these people. Maybe my videos are just too damn long. Maybe that's why my message doesn't get out. Like, can you believe this guy? I mean, who's really... How is it... Why does he say it's a major issue? Police being used as default first responders to mental health. No, they are. They're not default. They are the first responders to mental health because they have to be. And who's seen it as a major issue? Really, who's seen it as a major issue? Can you tell me? Can you give me an example of anything? Do we want to hear any more? Vancouver lawyer Wally Opal. Individual officers have done an excellent job. Oh, thank you, Wally. In the province, but agreed the RCMP should go because of inadequate oversight. There's not enough oversight, guys. That's a good reason, Wally. You need local accountability. Oh, and none of that is being done by the RCMP. That's why you kicked the RCMP out of BC. To get more local accountability, whatever that means. In 94, Opal ran an inquiry into the province policing system, but it was largely ignored, thank God. He recommended broad reforms to the NDP government. Oh, this is what... Look who's running us. A statement from RCMP Deputy Commissioner Dwayne McDonald, the commanding officer in BC, said, they'll take time to review the report and won't speculate on next steps until that's done. Good statement. Strong. You got to wonder, right? You got to wonder, what if Brenda Lucky, if she actually that day, remember that day where she said, oh, there's absolutely systemic racism in the RCMP, okay? What would have happened if she didn't say that? And she just said, no, piss off. Of course there isn't. Absolutely not. Like, told the truth. Would we have done all this? Would we be talking about this? She could have nipped it in the bud, maybe. I would have. My God. If I was the civilian commissioner, and I don't really agree for a civilian to be the commissioner, but I agree for me to be the civilian commissioner. If I was a civilian commissioner, oh, God, I would love to shut these people up. Farnworth, he speaks again, Farnworth. The recommendations echo our government's belief that everyone deserves equal treatment by the police. Farnworth, who is not a member of the all-party committee, said in a statement, because we aren't treating people equally, guys. The police, the RCMP, I can't even. This has not always been the case for many indigenous, black, and other people of color. This is what Farnworth said. They haven't been treated equally. Black, indigenous, and people of color have been dealt with unequally. Where's the example, bitch? You know what I'm talking about? Where's the example? When I was a cop, did you actually think I went out and about and targeted certain groups? You dumb tit. Of course I didn't. Why would I do that? I didn't even want to arrest anybody. Police don't even want to arrest people. Gives you no example, just throws that statement out there. These people are ignorant. They're not knowing. They're dumb. We're not doing that. And I sound like an idiot sitting there going, we're not doing that. That's not who we are. But he just throws it out there. This has not always been the case for many indigenous, black, and other people of color. With not one example, he says those words. It's a group of infection that runs this country. He's the infection. These people in the report are the infection. This clip that I showed you, they're the infection. They're infecting you. It's wrong. It's wrong, but we just accept it. I just can't believe it. It bugs me. It upsets me. Because what I went through to become a cop, spent my entire life, and the moment I became a cop, according to Brenda Lucky, I was immediately racist. And to read this stuff, get rid of the RCMP. Why don't you just make it better? Just stay away. Stay out of it. Just let them police. Let them do their job. The only people complaining about this is you, the politicians. The only people making this stuff up is you, the politicians. And it doesn't matter what I say. It doesn't matter what we say. You guys proved it yourself that there's no systemic racism in the RCMP. But it's not good enough, right? I feel like this video really took a downturn when I started reading that article. I mean, what did I just read? I don't even know what I just read. A bunch of losers, really. You're absolute losers in life. That's how you critically think? That's what you come up with? That report, that's what you come up with. Guys, I know I didn't go through all the recommendations. I just can't. I can't because I just don't want to sit here and go, that's silly. Mental health response should be 911 option. More mental health, addiction, civilian, and policing teams. Because that's going to fix things, right? Fix what? What is the problem with how police respond to people that are suffering from mental health? I just can't do it anymore. I can't even talk. More self-administered First Nations police. Okay. Really? Sure. Why? Input. First Nations want input in how we do our job. Why? Why do you need that? What for? What's the problem? Recommendations are that BC transition into a new provincial police service governed by a new Community Safety and Policing Act. Okay, why? Do you see what I mean, guys? Do you see that they've spent years on this, and these are the recommendations they come up with? They don't even understand their recommendations. That Indigenous communities have direct input into their police services. Why do they need direct input into their police services? Oh my God. What do you even say to it? Oh, that's a good reason to rid the RCMP. So indigenous communities can have direct input into their police services. That the government create and appropriately fund a continuum of response to mental health, addictions, and other complex social issues, and that mental health services be integrated into 911 options. Well, just go ahead and do that. Why do you need to rid the RCMP to do that? Just go ahead and do it. Fine. Let's see what happens. Reforming police funding models to be more fair and equitable for municipalities. Whatever that means. I don't even know what they're talking about there. Requiring police services to collect and publicly report race-based data in order to address systemic racism within policing. Because, guys, the race-based data, it's so important to acquire race-based. What is race-based data? They want to know how many races that the RCMP arrest to prove systemic racism? We've already proved that it doesn't exist, systemic racism. But we got to go ahead and, you know what, collect race-based data. Shouldn't we focus on cultures? We want to focus on the police culture. But if certain races are getting arrested more than other races, maybe they should focus on their own culture. Fix that. It's the same old stuff. Police don't respond. Indigenous peoples, I guess we're doing something wrong with the indigenous population. No examples. We're systemically racist. We don't respond properly to people that are suffering from mental health. Do you see how they push it back onto police? When really they should be fixing mental health. They should be fixing the people that are on the streets that are drug addicted, committing the crime, who are the problem. They are the problem. These people that we talk about that are complaining that they get arrested and they don't like being arrested. They complain and they get a voice. They don't deserve a voice. Street people, high out of their minds, don't get a voice. Criminals that we arrest that are complaining that they're arrested don't get a voice. You're scum. But you're treating the police like scum. They're the scum. They're the problem. Fix that problem. Fix it. Don't allow people to be on the streets. It should be a crime. You're not allowed to live on the street. And I shouldn't have to put up with it. And I'm sorry, indigenous communities, if you have a problem with how we police. Tough. Stop listening to the criminals who are complaining about it. And guess what? They're not even complaining about it. You're complaining about it. That's weird.
What's that?